I am glad to see you all here tonight. We have a series of options, and I just want to start by explaining the organization of this chart so you can follow along with me. We want to describe them to a large group, and then when we break up into smaller groups, we hope to have more interaction with people so that they can give us comments and questions. In a smaller group, we'll be more able to speak up and get your questions answered. Right now, the chart is up here. Each of these has the same information at the top of the page. That is the current configuration, the current loading of the existing schools. And you may not be able to read all the little numbers in there, but it tells you how many students there are in each of the schools, what grades they cover, and so forth. The top headers, pre-K, K, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on across the top, are the grades that are being housed in each of the schools. So for instance, in the existing current year, the red blob up there goes from pre-K to 2, and that's the Brewster School. You can see that it covers the first 4 grades that way. Underneath that in green is the Lyman School. It goes from K to 4. Okay, so hopefully this organization will help you understand what changes happens in each of the proposed options. Option A, if you remember the title we had on this family, option A is the do nothing option. I don't really like that name very much. People understand it right away. It doesn't mean do nothing. It means not plan to do something. So things will happen. Changes will happen. But in this one, we're keeping the same configuration in the same buildings. The difference is the underlying numbers in this one, because the numbers are going down. Because this is in the future. This is a projected enrollment in starting in year 2016. And over time, the numbers generally will be continuing to go down. But I want to give you an idea of what that implies in this particular case. So if we take the do nothing option, and it's different in each school, the number of students drops in each school is different. But the most dramatic one that I see is in the Strong Middle School. In the Strong Middle School, we have capacity in this building for 480 students. And in year 2016, it shows that there would be 271. Okay, so that's over 200 seats in the school would be unassigned. I'm going to call it unassigned at the moment. That's a lot of classrooms. Okay, so that makes us think, wow, maybe one of the things that we can do as we go forward in these various options is incorporate another grade in this school, which would make it a 3-grade middle school, which is something that a lot of middle school instructors, educators, really like to work with, because they can have a student come in the 6th grade, stay in the school in the 7th grade, sort of like that's the middle of their middle school career, and then transition out in the 8th grade. So they have a longer period of time to work with those students. Okay, so that's the do nothing option. And let me just read for you the numbers that are in here. So we have a capacity in the Brewster School of 242, and in this year we have 191 students in there. In the Corn School, capacity of 176. The enrollment in 2016 would be 131. In the Lyman School, the green bar, we have a capacity of 268, and the enrollment would be 253. So that one's pretty close. That one actually has a couple of modular classrooms that are in use. And then we go to the Memorial School, which is 368, and capacity, enrollment of 278. And in the high school, we have a capacity of 652 and an enrollment of 539. Okay, just to give you an idea of what would happen in those grades. Option B is pretty much the same organization, but the difference is money would be spent to upgrade the schools. Okay, so within the same envelopes, changes would be made to make better use of the buildings. In some cases, some of the rooms might be reconfigured so that they can offer a better program than they're able to offer now, because they're being used for a regular classroom. Maybe in the future they would be used for some sort of tutorial, or maybe another kind of program that could be offered. So that's option B. One of the things that shows up in there is the ability to remove the portables at the high school. So because the enrollment dropped, there would be enough classrooms available for the amount of students within the envelope of the building itself. This is the next slide. We have, once again, at the top is the current configuration. We're getting into the family of C's. The C family is where we look at different options for closing schools. So, if we were to close the corn school, in this case here, you see the corn school is the purple bar, and the purple bar is missing from this one. So, we're going to close the corn school, and we also have a 3-grade middle school, as I've talked about before. So the 6th grade goes to the Strong, and the Memorial School becomes a 2-grade 4-5 instead of 5-6. The elementary school, the Brewster, becomes pre-K to 3 instead of pre-K to 2, and the Lyman School becomes K to 3 instead of K to 2. This has a pretty good match in the size of the buildings. We would need to add 1 classroom in the Brewster Elementary School to make the enrollment numbers work out in this particular year. Now, it doesn't really make sense to build a classroom on a building. So what would most likely happen is that this option here, if these enrollment figures carry, this option might be more practical the next year afterwards instead of being done this year, because the numbers keep going down. Next one, C2, we're going to close 2 schools. We're going to do some additions and some demolition. In this one, the schools that are being closed are Memorial and the Corn. Grade reconfigurations, we have the middle school and the high school are the same as they were in the previous, in C1. But we're going to make these schools into, Brewster is a pre-K to 5, and Lyman is a K to 5. Okay? In order to do that, we're going to have to add 7 classrooms to the Brewster and 11 classrooms to the Lyman School. You can see that's a pretty big addition. That's just about double the size of that school. And unfortunately, I don't have to actually draw it on here, so you can see it's a pretty radical addition to it. We're also saying, because of the size of these schools, it might be feasible and it'd be a good idea to offer both the ID program and the contemporary program in each of the 2 elementary schools. So you would have the option, if you have a student that needs the ID program or would benefit from the ID program, and another student in your family that would benefit from the contemporary program, they could still go to the same building, on the same bus, and have the same friends in the neighborhood. So there we are, that's C2. Let's go to the next one. These are good for comparison. C3 is close to schools, but in this case we're closing the Lyman and the Corn. Now, it's sort of like the one we had just a minute ago, except that the one that gets on the middle field, the elementary school that is continuing on the middle field is the Memorial School. Okay, Memorial School is a larger school, and in this case, we wouldn't have to add. We would add 4 classrooms to make it work instead of adding 11 classrooms to the Lyman. Once again, we're going to have both programs in both of the elementary schools. And because this has a certain size of classroom currently, and we're adding 4 rooms to it, these could be kindergarten-sized rooms, so that the kindergarten that goes there could be in full-size rooms. And we'll still be adding 7 classrooms to the Brewster for the other elementary school. The rest of it is the same. Now, C4 closes the Lyman School. It repurposes the Corn School to become an early childhood center. Early childhood center, in this case, would have pre-K and K in the same building. So all the kindergarten students in the district would go to the Corn School. And then, once they've gone through the kindergarten program, then the parents could decide and choose which of the 2 programs they want to go to. The 2 programs would once again be offered in each of the elementary schools There will be one in the Brewster School and both programs in the Brewster School and both programs in the Memorial School. Each of those two schools there has a capacity of a little over 300 students. Let me get a drink. So the two schools are equivalent in size, and they would offer the equivalent programs in both schools. And actually, because they're in the same school, you could reconfigure from one year to the next the number of classrooms that are assigned to each of those programs. It gives you more flexibility. Once again, we have a three-grade middle school, and the high school is continues the way we had proposed before without the modular units. This requires only a very small construction. 2 classrooms are needed at the Brewster. The Memorial School and the Court School and the Strong are all the correct size for the proposed number of students. C5 is closing 2 schools again. This is a very different idea. Quite often the idea comes up of what if we made an early childhood center, but it was at the high school, okay? Because the high school has some extra capacity. So that's what this is trying to do. So you can see the brown block for the early childhood center is the same color as the brown block for the high school. Looking at the spaces that are available in the high school as the enrollment numbers go down, we felt that it would not be easy to just put the kinds of rooms you need for kindergartners and pre-K into high school, because the high schools have smaller classrooms. And they also need to have first floor access to the outdoors. So we would probably have to put some sort of addition onto the high school in order to make that happen. Now once again, I want to remind you, we don't put this up here because it has, all benefits and no downside. We just want to cover the widest range possible. So this one shows having 8 classrooms with pre-K and K located at the high school building. There would be much fewer open seats at the high school by taking advantage of the additional uses that are going on up there. We're able to close both the Corn and the Lyman School, and the schools that are in the middle, we have the Brewster School and the Memorial School, just like I said before, with the 2 programs available in each of those 2 schools. Middle school is the Strong Middle School in gray, is 3 grades. And you can see those 2 elementary schools are around 300 students each, both fairly equal. And option D, the one that is there to complete the sort of bookend. This is if you were to do new schools, what kind of configuration might that have? The 2 elementary schools go from pre-K to 5 and K to 5. So they're located at the Brewster, for convenience sake, they're located at the Brewster and the Memorial School sites. And they would be larger than the existing buildings because they have more grades that are handling. We have the middle school with 3 grades, and that would be able to fit much more of the requirements for the number of students. And in the high school, we would keep the high school as it is, probably do some renovations, but not replace it with a brand new building. So there are the options that we've come up with so far, and I'm hoping that they will spark in you some additional thoughts.
Well, thank you, Paul. I do understand that the information is very small, very difficult to read from distance, but what we wanted to do was give a general overview so that you have an idea of the types of thinking that's gone on. It's not exhaustive. Certainly there are many other ideas out there. Tonight, as we had in the last workshop, we'd like to take advantage of an idea of breaking up into small breakout sessions. We would like to use the breakout session so that, one, we can ask the question, Are there other configurations? Are there other options or alternatives that you may think of in terms of how this system might configure itself? The other question that we will have for you is, we'd like to develop a listing of considerations. And this matrix is one that we use to compare side by side each of the various options and alternatives. So across the top where you see A, B, C1, C2, C3, we would have the listing of that particular option. Down the left-hand column, under the header of considerations, a list of what are the considerations that are most important to RSD 13. We have some starters up here, ideas of sample. The large, or the heavy black bar across the top, that is a consideration header that is labeled cost. And under the cost consideration, we have issues like overall cost, net cost to community, probable reimbursement, if any, from the state, those types of considerations of cost. The next one, the next heavy bar header is this, and it's labeled construction issues. So under that, we might list considerations like, if construction is necessary, what might the impact be to the educational program that's ongoing? In terms of outcome, will we receive good quality buildings? Those types of considerations. The next header, under this black bar, is that of educational results. And here we might think of questions like, shall we continue with the ID and contemporary program side by side in our system? As a very local question. Another type of question might be, how many transitions are in our system? Meaning, how many times does a child have to move from one building to another as part of their elementary school experience? Might we do better? Another thought under educational considerations might be, can we reform our system to have more traditionally found grade configuration? So the example of a 3-grade middle school is something from an educational standpoint that is readily seen in many places, partly due to the fact that it reduces number of transitions in the system. That's one reason. The other is, as children come to a 2-grade school, you're either coming in or you're going out. There's none of that, you're there as part of the experience. The last is that of project results. And here we look more to what are the types of outcomes that the community as a whole can expect. So if we make an investment in our facilities, or if we choose to reconfigure, will we still have the resources necessary to do some of the things that we normally are doing, like this wonderful gym? You know, will this be available for community use going forward in whatever configuration goes forward? Those types of community considerations might be brought into question. So with those two questions, and again, the first question is, are there other configurations of the system that you may think of? And the second being, relative to this listing of considerations, the filter that we kind of sift these various options through, are there particular considerations that you would feel are pertinent to the RSD community? Those are the two questions that we will really have for you. And we'll have them in 3 breakout sessions here. I'll have one breakout session that again focuses on the idea of container. So my breakout session, along with Joe from our MEP consultants, we'll look at the physical facilities, and we'll be able to pose the question of these various options, which are most easily achieved, which are most readily attained through the lens of facilities, through the lens of the container, if you will. Paul Moore is going to head up a breakout session in that back corner. Best group, once again. And that breakout session is going to focus on the contents. And again, asking the 2 questions. Are there other configurations, or how do these proposed configurations weigh against one another when looked through that filter of educational plan and program. The third breakout session is going to be headed by Allie Church, who will also argue it's a very good breakout session. And it's going to be over in that corner of the gym. And that's going to focus on currents. What are the trends in the community? What are the demographics telling us? And again, the first question of looking at these options and alternatives, which of these options and alternatives might perform best in terms of meeting the future needs relative to enrollments, etc. So those are the 3 breakout sessions that we'd like you to think about. If one sparks your interest, please come sit in with us. If in fact you sit in on a breakout session and feel you'd like to hear something else in the room, feel free to move around the room. There are some refreshments back in the corner. What I'd say is let's give ourselves about 3 minutes and we'll start at about 7:45. Why don't we grab something and then come to a breakout session? And before we break up, I did see a hand, and I'm sorry, I want to make sure that I can catch it. Was there a question back row? This area? Yes.
I just had a question, and I don't know whether it's relative to the whole group, which is why I was asking it now. In all of your options, you seem to be very, fixed on the idea that both programs should be in both buildings. Is there a reason why you felt that way?
Didn't hear the question.
Okay. The question was, in the options that we identified, it was observed that it seems that we were very fixed on the idea of keeping the availability of both programs, the integrated day and the contemporary day program, available at 2 buildings. And is that your question? And why is that? Well, I'd like to offer this. We're not done. So that's a great question. Let's test out a few options that say, what if we had them in one school or another? And then let's look at them relative to the considerations and see how well that plays out against other options. So that's a great starter for one of our breakouts. So please bring that. Any other quick questions before we break up? Seeing none. Why don't we do this? So grab something to drink and come to one of the breakout sessions. We'll work until about 20 after 8, and then if we could, we'd like to come back together just to quickly